Yo, 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 and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Robbie. How you doing, boy?
I'm all good, buddy. How we doing?
I'm good. Yo, listen. England's women's team just beat, I think, Norway's women's team 8-0. Is it coming home, Robbie?
Oh, well, I don't know. To be fair, I've not really been following too much, but I did see they were like 5 or 6-0 up at half time or something.
Yeah, it was mental, man.
Fair play. Maybe I have to start watching now.
Maybe, now that England has a chance to bring a trophy
glory
home.
hunter,
There you go. How things, man? How's life? I know you're busy, dad to 2 little baby girls. Like, life is hectic for you. New writer at the Draft Society as well. Big things are going.
Yeah. I think my work, my normal work life has maybe taken a bit of a hit, but we've been working pretty hard on the draft kit like all summer. So, basically having articles dropping every day, and the guys are just churning it out at the moment. And we should have the consensus ranks dropping soon as well, which I know everyone always likes to see. And then the little ones in the evening, trying to get them to bed in this crazy heat. It's all good fun. I've pretty much only just finished that, so we're recording about 10, just if anyone. Yeah.
Half naked as well, if anyone also wants to know that.
Oh yeah, it's way too hot out here.
Well, since we're on the topic of your life, let's start off with the fan introduction segment. Tell the people who you are, your Twitter handle, which club you're representing today, and just, a quick tidbit about you.
Yeah, so my name's Robbie, and my handle on Twitter is @ateamofcarers, which is basically after my team name, my fantasy football team name, which has been around for like probably over a decade now, which is a team of Carragers. And a little bit about me. Yeah, so I'm obviously from the UK. I know so many people who listen to our stuff is from the States, and I live just outside of London in Epsom, home of the Derby, which was on recently. I'm a civil engineer. Work for a design firm. And design tunnels basically, which is all good fun. So
nice.
That's where my love of spreadsheets and all sorts of stats and stuff comes from. But yeah,
I feel like you've built more spreadsheets for Trax in the last couple of years than your actual job.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Although I did learn a lot of Excel skills while working on a few projects, so which have actually helped for Fantrax research. But yeah,
there you go. I knew having a career would come in handy one day.
Exactly that. Yeah. Get on your pivot tables, everyone, if that's your thing.
Yeah, there you go, using fancy words already. And if you haven't gathered from his Twitter handle already, Robbie is going to be talking about Liverpool today, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah. So obviously, exactly. I'm a Liverpool fan for my sins and all that. It was a long old slog from childhood. Through the Roy Evans and Julia in eras, but it's the last decade's been quite nice. It's sort of we've seen quite the rise, and United have seen quite the fall. So that's been great to see.
Yeah, long gone are the days of Ricky Lamberts, Andy Carrolls, and Fabio Barinis.
Yeah. Paul Konchesky's and the Roy Hodgson one was, I think, that was the limit of my patience, I think.
All right. So just a quick breakdown of how we're going to run these episodes is we have like 3 kind of main segments. Is we have a bit of general discussion, just, stuff about the club. And then we kind of navigate our way into like, the useful bits, the draft stuff, right? That's what people are here for, talking about assets, first picks, next few picks, hidden gems, that sort of stuff. And then we talk a little bit about trading, right? Just experienced managers kind of trying to give their advice on how to navigate the season season if your draft goes like shit, which we still always like to talk about, is that you have a shit draft, you can still win your league, that sort of thing, right? So Robbie, let's get started. I know this question probably won't apply to you, but I mean, you could talk a little bit about maybe how it navigates into the second one. First one is usually, as always, what's the impact of the new manager / ownership? I mean, you've had Klopp for how many seasons now? What is it? 6, 7? I don't know.
Was it 15, 16 he came in? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, clearly no change. And I mean, obviously there could be a bit of a change in terms of Mane being replaced and Nunez coming in, and that's the sort of the main big change. And will we see a formation change from that? But obviously Klopp has predominantly used the 4-3-3 the whole time he's been at Liverpool, and so it's just a case of whether we see something new or not. And we had a little bit of an inkling at the end of the season, in the Champions League final and even the last game against Wolves in the Prem, the 4-2-3-1 with Firmino coming in the base. So I think that's maybe the only major change we might see.
Yeah. So I mean, let's talk about like the previous season. We kind of highlighted on it. What did you think of it? How you guys did? I mean, Prem aside, you guys got 2 trophies, right? Obviously, you were just shy of the actual title itself. But how would you rate last season, and what is the expectations you have for the upcoming season?
Yeah. So going into last season, clearly the one before was a bit of a nightmare with injuries, and I always thought with Van Dijk back that it would just be like normal again, and sort of what it proved to be in the end. I think it took a little while for us to get going, which I think ultimately cost us the title, to be honest. In the first half of the season, and Van Dijk, he wasn't quite the player he was. He was that step slower and a little bit sluggish, but he was still amazing centre back. Yeah. So it was just a slightly different style of play, and with Matip actually coming in and sort of dominating a bit more, and you saw that with his Fantrax stats. He definitely was more of a front foot defender than we've seen before, which tends to be rewarded in Fantrax with your tackles and interceptions and all that. But yeah, no, going through the season, obviously it really just sort of picked up, especially with the signing of Diaz in January. It sort of felt like we just took that extra step and had the extra how do you say, there was just a different we could call on a different strategy anyway, which teams weren't used to, which I think really helped in in that second half of the season to push on in all the cup the cup runs and in the league. Obviously, it didn't quite happen at the end, but still a couple of domestic cups and nearly getting the league and getting to a Champions League final. I mean, most people would bite your hand off for that, wouldn't they? So,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Let's just say I enjoyed the ride.
Yeah. So next season expectations. Let's assume everyone is fit, but no money. Like, it is definitely a big shoes to fill in that sense, right? Are you expecting another close title push? Because I mean, Man City is also losing players as well, right? Raheem Sterling going to Chelsea, I want to say, is a big coup, not only for us, but a big loss for Man City, because he had a lot of goals and assists that contributed to some of their title winning seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting on the City side, because obviously Sterling going to Chelsea, he was a big player for them, and aside from last season, he's pretty much starting 30 games every year, which, under Pep, that's really something for a forward anyway. But last year, I think he had like 23 starts. So, you almost, he's got a year left on his contract. He wanted a bigger role, and, he clearly wasn't getting it at City. And I think with the signing of Haaland there, or it's Haaland, actually, I think you meant to pronounce it.
Oh, anyway. Haaland. Okay.
Yeah, apparently I keep listening to some pods and they keep calling it Haaland, and it sounds weird, but
all right.
Maybe that must be how they're meant to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you're going to see them play slightly differently. There's no false nine. You got a proper nine, proper centre forward up top there. So I think you're going to have guys like Grealish and Foden who more passing type of guys who will really, they'll need to get the ball to him. So yeah, it's a difficult conundrum about who's going to play either side of him. But yeah, I think they'll play slightly differently. And although they would have liked to keep Sterling, I think maybe the qualities of the other players might benefit with Haaland more. But I'm not sure they'll see. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Finish your point.
No. So I'm not sure they'll necessarily, miss him too much. Is all.
So, do you think some of your new boys will be able to fill the void that Mane has left behind? Are you expecting Salah to kick on? New contract. You think you guys will be able to score as many goals as you did, previous seasons?
Yeah, for sure. I mean. Yeah. I think there may be a little bit of a bedding in period, but I mean, we've already seen Diaz come in and be taking Mane's spot basically on the left wing and just run away with it. And obviously shifted Mane inside just because you can't not play him. He's that good, and he obviously did very well there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've already got Diaz, Jota, and Salah who have been bedded in properly, and you go, okay, well, Jota played the majority of games at centre forward last season before Mane got moved there. So if Nunez doesn't work out or takes a long time to bed in, Jota's already there, and we've seen that work already. So while it may not be quite as good as last season, and I would still put City as favourites comfortably, I think. I don't think there's the sort of the humongous drop-off that people would think there may be, without Mane. The other thing that, I alluded to earlier is, potentially we may see a bit more of a 4-2-3-1 formation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that Klopp has used in the past at Dortmund with, Lewandowski as, a more traditional number 9, which is more in the mould of Nunez is in. Nunez he does run the channels a bit more, so he's a bit more mobile. But I think it's something where we could see maybe Bobby Firmino getting in that the hole behind the striker in the 4-2-3-1. So yeah, there's lots of. I think it just gives us more options. Which again, as I was saying earlier, which is what Diaz gave us. More options, more more ability to change things up to try and win matches.
Yeah, talking about Nunez running the flanks, I think versus you guys in the Champions League last season, I think in the first half he was kind of running down the left side, and in the second half he kind of switched to the right side, so he is a bit versatile in that sense, right? I mean, if we talk about new assets and old assets, that sort of stuff, Minamino has left, right? I think for Monaco. Again, we talk about Sadio Mane leaving for Bayern Munich, really gonna miss play of his presence. Divock Origi as well,
legend,
big absolute legend, off the bench especially, go on to AC Milan. So I kind of want to talk about maybe the new assets, right? Yes, we kind of touched on Darwin Nunez, but I guess my final question about him is, do you expect him to be the main starter until maybe he flops, or just Klopp is just gonna beat a dead horse situation?
I honestly have no idea. It's going to be an interesting one because I've seen Nunez go pretty high in a lot of the mock drafts, and I'm thinking I think at the moment I've sort of projected him and Jota for a bit of a timeshare, this season with Nunez maybe sort of just taking it by the end, but it's a difficult one to predict. I think obviously we haven't really seen any of the pre-season games yet. They've only really just started, so that's that I think that's the main thing you want to be watching out for, who's being used where, and just getting some inklings. I mean, certainly last season, I was watching a lot of the preseason games, which is what got me to be so excited about drafting Matip. But so it's always worth looking out for these things: who's fit, who's playing more of the minutes, and what formations are they using, as we discussed earlier. But I think realistically it may be a bit of a timeshare with Nunez taking over towards the end. But again, it depends on the the formation that's used and all sorts like that.
So you think you'd maybe suggest if you're going after Nunez, maybe it probably won't happen during the draft, but maybe a couple game weeks into the season, try and get a handcuff of Nunez and Jota.
I think I was thinking about this, and I think it may be possible in some leagues, but
Yeah.
I think it might be difficult because it looks like for Nunez, you're probably going to have to go maybe end of round 1, start of round 2. That looks
Yeah, you're
like
missing out on so many good players if you do that, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who are more assured.
Yeah.
But that's where he's going. So
Yeah.
if you're going around there, I don't think Jota comes back to you in round 3 by the time you're there, which is the issue. It may be possible. I don't know. I think you could. You could probably get Salah and Jota. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good thing. It's not really a handcuff. But if you're that way inclined, anyway.
Yeah. All right. A couple other assets, a couple other ins that you guys have, and I don't know if they're gonna have as much of draft appeal this season. But let's start off with kid from Fulham, Fabio Cavalio. He was an exciting talent for them, right? One of the main reasons I want to say they got promoted. Are you expecting anything from him, or just off the bench like what Elliot Harvey does?
Yeah,
Harvey Elliott. Sorry.
2 first names, eh?
Yeah.
No, I think he's clearly still a young guy, and this is part of my sort of thinking, and the Athletic have reported it as well. But around this 4-2-3-1 is this guy played attacking midfield centrally for Fulham the whole year. If he's going to play anywhere, it will likely be off the left, which that's sort of what he did in his role. He sort of drifted off to the left and then came in on his right foot. So I don't really envisage many starts from him. Clearly, like in the cups, especially the early round, Klopp does use the youngsters a lot, so I'd expect him to get quite a lot of minutes there. But I'm not sure I necessarily see him as going straight into like the 3 in midfield in a 4-3-3 like we've seen Elliott be moved there after starting as a the right wing as a sort of sub for Salah every now and then in his first season. So we may see him coming off the left, but I mean that's the thing. All the other forwards, like Jota and Nunez, they're quite comfortable going off the left as well. So it's a sort of like big conundrum. I mean, we may see if Salah ever gets rested, Jota may be moving on the right, and all these things. But there's quite a lot of moving parts, and I don't really see much time for him aside from sub appearances and maybe the odd start in some easier games when people are being rotated.
All right, fair enough. And final one I want to talk about is Calvin Ramsey, coming in from Aberdeen. Thoughts on him?
Yeah. I mean, I've not seen too much of him, but clearly he's with Nico Williams being sold. He's come in as the backup right back. Seems a good young prospect. And I mean, what it does mean as well is the implications of that effectively are Joe Gomez signing a new contract as well, and I would have had him down as a backup right back for the year with potentially a backup centre back, but now we've got Ramsey, and you're now looking at quite a let's just say it's a difficult choice at centre back for Klopp, because last season we saw obviously Van Dijk first choice, but Matip and Konate be competing for that place. With Matip having more of the Premier League starts and Konate more in the Cup. But now you throw Gomez in, who we know if he's fit, he's clearly a very, very good player. So it just sort of muddies that water, and for me, I'm maybe dropping both Matip and Konate down my ranks a little bit because of it.
All right, fair enough. Are there any other new assets that you're expecting at the moment? I know we're still fairly early, before the season kind of kicks off. Any names kind of knocking around that you think managers should be, look out for, sort of thing?
Honestly, I don't think we'll do any more business. I think the one that's been touted a lot is Jude Bellingham, but I think that's something that it's not going to happen this year, and if it does, it would happen next year. So there doesn't appear. I think all of our business is done, to be honest. It's great that we got it in early, just going after Nunez, bam, done. So yeah, really impressed with that, to be honest. And I mean, I didn't think, before the season ended, that was something that we'd be someone who we'd be after, to be honest. So it was sort of, came out of the blue a little bit, but it's a statement signing. So, and yeah, I don't think there's much room to get anyone in. I think maybe the only outgoings, potentially Oxlade-Chamberlain. But yes, I mean, at the moment he's just depth in midfield.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. You talked about the formation, with the new guys coming in, you possibly switching from that default 4-3-3 to the 4-2-3-1. But gun to your head, what do you think is the starting 11 right now, start of the season? Or for like the whole season, let's say majority.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you've obviously got Alisson in goal, Robbo, Van Dijk. I think it will be Matip, if I had to choose. But I really do think Konate. You just don't know whether that season he's impressed so much that he's now going to be taking over. Trent right back, Fabinho, Thiago and Henderson in midfield, and then Diaz, Salah, and I've got Nunez there at the moment. As I just first game of the season. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's Fulham. What could go wrong?
Well, yeah, this is true. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I go with at the moment, and that's who I think will get the most starts, if you will, through the season. But yeah, it's certainly a difficult one to decipher with the Nunez Jota situation.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about, the 5 sub rule now. Winter World Cup, it's gonna fuck everything up. I mean, wow, that rhymed. Nice. Well done, me. But yeah, what do you think? How is this gonna affect the squad moving forward? Are you worried about drafting anyone in particular? I mean, for sure, I think one of the first names that comes to mind is no Egypt in the World Cup. Mo Salah has to be like one of your top picks in the draft, right? But who are you like concerned about as well, like the other names?
Yeah, so I mean, Salah particularly, no World Cup. It's like the opposite of the problem he had last year with the African Cup of Nations. So I mean, I've recently chose to pick first in the Junior League, and I'll be taking Salah straight away. So literally I chose that because of that, rather than sort of think of a top 5 position, because I didn't mind any of them, sort of thing. I think he really will hopefully be a step above anyway. So Robertson again is another one who's Scottish, so he's missing the World Cup. Trent will go to the World Cup, but we don't even know how many minutes he'll see, so I'm not particularly worried about him. Another one, Diaz missing the World Cup as well. Great.
Yeah.
He's creeping up that draft board so high.
Yeah.
And then, but Jota with Portugal as well. I mean, he should have his minutes managed, so I don't really see too much of an issue. And with Nunez, I mean, I don't see Uruguay going too far. So. I think they qualified, didn't they? I should know that. I think
really. So. we should, right? Yeah. We're supposed to be experts at this game,
But yeah, I mean, particularly with like Thiago's injury record, I mean, it's if he doesn't normally get too many minutes for Spain, so I'm probably not too worried about it. But if he I mean, the guy's made of glass, isn't he? So we'll have to see on that front.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on now to the draft segment. So from Liverpool, I think this is pretty obvious, but I'm still gonna ask you, who's your first pick?
Got to be Mo, right? But you know what? Honestly, I would pick Mo, but actually Trent for me could be picked in any of the top 5 positions. This year.
Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, if you went Trent first pick, I don't think that's out of whack at all. So, but yeah, certainly I would go with Mo. I mean, you just can't go wrong with him, really. Like, there's no way he's going to be, unless he gets some major injury, which he doesn't really ever get, that he'll be, below a top 10 overall player. Like, it's the least risk, I think, that you can get out of the, if you compare him to, say, a KDB, in terms of, risk of number of starts and things like that. He's just, I can't see him not getting, 33 plus starts this season and, still doing well.
I mean, arguably has better ghost points than Salah does, right?
KDB, key passes for days.
Yeah. But I mean, even talking about Trent as well, won't Trent potentially have better ghost points than Salah does? Because I've seen Salah get, 1 to 3 points sometimes in a game.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously that chance, but when you score 20 odd goals, and I think he had 13 assists as well. Which it's just these are. Oh, was it 16 goals? Oh no, I was comparing that. Yeah. Salah got a lot more assists last year than he normally does, but I mean the majority of his his non-ghost points, if you will, came from the goals. So yeah, I don't see much of a too much of a regression on that side. His ghosts were actually pretty good last year. I think he had 9.9 per 90 in his good spell before he went to AFCON. So he's not too bad, but obviously those come with the attacking. Too bad. Yeah, it's pretty good, but it comes with the attacking returns. It's shots on targets, it's key passes, it's all these things, and the odd dribble. But so yeah, if you want ghosties, then Trent will be a man again. Just like I mean, he led the way for key passes last season. So.
Yeah, I mean, Salah only won the Golden Boot 3 in the last 5 seasons, right? 3 times, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, it'll do.
All right, let's now move on to the next 3 picks. Who you're gonna go for from Liverpool? I mean, let's make things a little harder, right? Because I feel like obviously Trent would be in that if you went with Salah first. So let's avoid Salah. Let's avoid Trent. Who are your next 3?
So I'll go Diaz. And I think what it looks like, if you want him, I think you're probably gonna have to be, between picks 6 and 10 probably. The guy, I was looking at his stats the other day for the article, the Liverpool Best Players article for the Draft Society, and his ghost point production was very similar to Mane's best ghost point production in the Premier League. So that position, that left wing position, does just give you those nice points. I think. It's 10.2 ghost points per 90. So is really, really healthy numbers, and he only got, I think it was the 4 goals and 3 assists in 11 starts. So it didn't quite match up with his form in Portugal. The assists were pretty similar per start, but the goals went down, and I think that's an area that he should improve on this season without Mane there. He's quite, as we discussed before, he's quite a greedy boy. He likes to cut in on his right foot and go for a shot, and I think he'll probably do that more as he gets more confident and more bedded in with the team. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping his goals per start, if you will, output will go up. I don't really see that ghost point production going down necessarily, because he'd obviously been playing in Portugal before and been having a hard season. So I think he seems like a super fit guy. I don't think that we'll see any drop off, especially with him not going to the World Cup. So yeah, I just like he's a proper if I get any pick. Sort of like anywhere from 6 to 12, I'll be hoping to get Diaz, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean to go back to our last pod of last season, we kind of talked a little bit about the numbers as well, right? When you looked at when Diaz's effect or the role that he played in Liverpool, Jota's points per game dropped from like 11.5 to 9.75 points. Diaz was, I think, the 5th best player as soon as he started getting a run of starts at 12.42 points per game. He also had the 2nd most shots attempted. Obviously, obviously after Mo Salah because he's also a greedy motherfucker. But Diaz had attempted I think 38 shots with 13 of them on target, pipping both Mane by one who was on 37. Jota had attempted 31 shots, right? And even key passes, he sat fourth out of the rest of the boys. Both fullbacks, Trent and Andrew Robertson, with 32 and 23 key passes each. Salah with 22 and Diaz with 20 key passes, right? So he's obviously having a positive impact on that team and able to get points at the same time.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's like I said, is that left wing position? They're so, especially with tying up with Robbo on the overlap, they're just so busy. His completed dribbles, it's getting into the box, like crossing, key passes. I think one of our visualizations we did, their percentiles for each of the stats. He's on the 95th percentile for key passes, 89th for accurate crosses, 95th for completed dribbles. Yeah, I mean, the guy, even like 72nd, this is for forwards, by the way, but, 72nd for tackles and 65 for interceptions. So he's still just busy and getting involved.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to change, I think he's just a real proper prospect next year. I discussed with someone on Twitter recently that he was maybe a little bit more wary about the number of starts he's going to get. But I honestly think I don't think he'll be under 30 starts. I think he'll be 30 plus.
Yeah. That's safe.
So I don't know how much more above that, but especially with them not going to the World Cup as well. So I think he has to see that and he has to nail down that left wing spot.
All right. Now who's the second of the three that you're gonna go with?
Yeah. So the last one would be Robertson.
Wait, last one.
Yeah. So we've done Salah and Trent, right? Or are we not counting them?
Yeah, we're not counting them. So I'm gonna say Diaz is the face of the three.
Yeah, sure. So the second one would be Robertson, and honestly, I was looking into his stats in a bit more detail, and then it's a bit nuts, really. He so obviously after the World Cup, the Euros, he came back. He'd had a massive season. Went through the Euros, started the season injured, and Tsimikas came in. So I was looking at the numbers. The first 12 game weeks, he was only on 6.9 points per start.
Yeah, it's slow start, man.
And he was getting traded out in some bad trades and all sorts of bits like that. But I mean, after that, he was registering 15.9 points per start off the last 21 starts, and
it's Madison form, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and you look at any of the the guys in the top five like Son and Kane since Conte came in and all that. I mean, 16 points per start is where you're at. So obviously, can he sustain that over a season when we've only really seen him do about 12, 13 points per start in the previous seasons? But the main jump that you're seeing, he was outperforming his expected assists, more than he would normally do. So, but I mean, I think it only accounted for about maybe one or two assists. So, I think realistically, I think the presence of Tsimikas being there actually, potentially he may not start 38 games, but if he starts the 34 games, 33 maybe, and is actually, fitter and stronger for those games, then I think, you potentially see a guy who's, it can sustain that output for longer. So I mean, I'm really high on him, and I mean, to be honest, I might, if I was drafting at the end of the sort of pick 11, 12, something like that, I'd really want to be targeting him there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and the final of the three, who would you go with?
Yeah, I think the next guy in the draft has to be Nunez. Just because of the crazy upside, the number of goals he scored in Portugal. Clearly, he's not going to translate quite as well as what he did there. But I think he's the guy that you would probably go for next. I mean, it's a difficult one again with that timeshare with Jota, and it's a bit of a wait and see. So I'd probably be more comfortable taking him, maybe towards the end of the second round. But he will go earlier. So
Yeah,
I think if he
yeah.
falls after maybe if he falls after like a JWP mid second round or something like that, I think you almost got to go for him.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I mean, when you're getting there, it's all like your Grealishes and Fodens and stuff like that, and you're not sure about the starts anyway. So the upside is there, and you think you take it.
Do you think his price tag kind of is going to play a role on people's minds, like in terms of maybe, oh, he was so expensive, he's guaranteed more minutes? Because you didn't mention the likes of Jota. Well, I mean, you mentioned Jota, but not choosing Jota, and we didn't even pick Virgil van Dijk, right? Who is a nailed. I don't know if he's like. I mean, he's like a 10 points per player, at least because Alisson's in net, right? You've got a solid keeper, like you've got clean sheets coming, but it's crazy now those guys have dropped even further down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Van Dijk, it's compared to his previous seasons when he was, not the ACL season before, but the other ones, he was. As I was saying before, with that share with Matip, he was, more of that front foot guy hoovering up the aerials. He got a few more goals in and assists, and I think he had more. He felt like he had more upside last season. You count the amount of games he scored over 15 points, and it wasn't actually that many. I think it's about like eight games.
Yeah.
But obviously the flaws there with with Liverpool keeping so many clean sheets and all that. So I mean, personally, I've got him, pretty much start of third round, something like that.
Yeah.
But I know I've seen mocks with him going, mid fourth round and things like that. So people just, I'd look at him and go, if I'm picking him, I'm not going to get this wrong. This isn't a risk. And that's a lot of what drafting's about. Is sort of balancing up the risk reward, and I think it's very easy to get draft picks wrong. So I would I'd easily take Van Dijk. Somewhere in the third round, maybe middle of third round. He starts to get interesting. But I agree with you on that. It's just because he's nailed, like, if he doesn't have any injury problems, he's starting at least 35 games. So it's it feels like a set and forget no-brainer for me.
Fair play. All right, and now finally one hidden gem. Who do you think managers are going to overlook?
Yeah, it's got to be my boy Bobby, right?
Hey.
So he's the first one I put in my sleepers article, and I mean, this is obviously a way too early prediction because we want to see preseason and that. But if you especially if you can, like, if you pick up Nunez or Jota early on, then why not back it up with a handcuff with Bobby. Again, I think it's so much of it depends on us moving to a 4-2-3-1, or at least using that formation a lot, which would likely be against like low block teams where they're really not allowing us much space. But it's I mean, I think he had a few injuries, but I mean, we saw the game against Watford. I mean, he scored like 47.5 points. I think it was. And
he got a hat trick and an assist or something that game.
It's
something
exactly,
wild.
Yeah. And so I think it's still, he's still there, and he's like that whole, that role in the hole behind the striker is just perfect for him.
Yeah.
So I just think if we could see that a little bit more, I just want it because of that. But so I think. Maybe, because I don't think anyone's going to draft him until, I don't know, about round 10 or something. So, by that point, he's worth a go, isn't he? I mean, the only thing I'd say against that is, if he doesn't start the first few and you get, annoyed with him, and you might try and get rid for nothing or just drop him because the problem is, like, having that roster spot is quite valuable at the start of the season. The open spots on your bench, so you can just pick up like new emerging players who are looking good. So that is one thing to think about. Do you want to sort of waste that with a handcuff that might never materialize? But it's sort of each to their own, and you got to weigh it up really. But I think the upside is there. his ghosts haven't been as good recently, but I just think there's the middling sort of amount of starts he's had, which hasn't been able to show it. So.
Fair enough. All right. And now, final question for you. We're going to talk a little bit about trading assets. Based on your experience, your years of, successful experience as well, in terms of trading assets, what do you usually look at? Do you look at form of the players that you're trying to get, even the ones you're trading away? Do you look at maybe the fixture runs, the good ones that are coming up for the ones that you want to get versus, the fixture, the asset that you're holding on to has a terrible run, coming and you want to get rid of him or whatever? How do you kind of go about that? What's your advice to current managers, even new managers in the game, right? How do you go about trading?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you want to do is if you have a decent squad, you just got to start looking for 2-for-1 trades, and that's the way to build your the value in your squad, because you can then start to look, that you got that extra spot to pick someone up off the waiver wire, and I think that's the main strategy. Obviously, if your team's fucked, then you're gonna want to be doing the opposite.
Yeah.
Because you want to, you need that bit more depth, and you don't want to rely on like half a team of streamers. So so that's the first thing I'd say. The second is form versus fixtures. I think I would. Historically, from playing FPL for so many years, from back in, I think it was about 2005 or something, I started. The easiest thing to do is look at fixtures. It really is. It's just this looks good, this looks bad, and at the Draft Society we've got the a fixture difficulty tracker basically, which is literally designed on how many points are teams letting against them. So it's real-time data. It will start to become clearer as the season goes on, and actually the second half of the season is really good for that, because you can be more assured of the data. But that's a great tool to sort of see. It depends on how active you are, but if you're very active, you probably just want to look at like 6 games ahead, and just you start like always try and trade into value, and guys like Genie will will do that, sending crazy trade offers all the time. But yeah, form as well. I think it's difficult in the start of the season because you don't have much of a data set.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you do want to look at that, and there's some managers won't be too much into the data, and they'll just go on Fantrax and they'll see, that person's fantasy points per game is such and such. But actually, if you go into the points per start or the points per 90 for people who are more coming off the bench, and then you go, maybe this guy's a lot better, and you can actually start to just throw some trades out which might not seem so good just looking at Fantrax, but actually are better than better than you think. So I think for me I would definitely do a mixture of both, and it's just the difficult thing with trading is you generally just look at it's wants and needs, isn't it? So if you need to find a team that has a player that you want initially, or something that you want that you can get rid of for, and they need something too. Otherwise, it starts to sort of make sense. So the main thing I'd recommend to people is just look at someone's team. Do they have enough forwards? Do they have enough mids or defenders? And just if they don't, if they have too many, then go after that. And then offer them something that they don't have. That's the best place to start, and then you obviously go through and start to look at the balance of the the fixtures and the form.
Fair enough. Wonderful. All right. Well, I mean, that's all we had planned to talk about for this segment. Robbie, like I told Ryan, we're not going to do a 3-hour episode, It was fun
I think that killed me last time.
Definitely. I don't even know if that must have fucked up your sleeping schedule to some extent as well, right? But brilliant. Thank you so much for taking time out of your...
anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. I mean, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to chat Liverpool with us. I'm definitely looking forward to having you on the pod, again, as always. I'm sure, we'll have some updates. We'll maybe try and do some, when fixtures are on the corner, big fixtures, we'll have maybe two of the fans kind of go up against each other, update us on, what the teams are looking like, what the assets are looking like. We'll have a better view into, let's say Nunez versus Jota, let's say 8 game weeks into the season, right? And how we be able to value them in a trade or handcuffs, etc. But yeah, do you have any closing remarks, final thoughts, anything you want to kind of add before we sign off?
Yeah, just draft Liverpool players. There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. I don't think you can go wrong, really.
Yeah.
And
I mean, listen, we've seen Ben do the whole stacking of Man City assets, right?
Yeah.
And he crushed some of his opponents in some game weeks. I honestly think you could do the same with Liverpool.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more difficult because so many of them will go in the first couple of rounds. But yeah, I mean, I tried to stack as many as possible last season, and it certainly helped. So
yeah,
but yeah, I don't think it will be quite so easy this year. But, it's I mean, more tongue in cheek really. But there's literally so many of them that in the first couple of rounds, it's like, what do you do? But so it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, definitely. Always. Yeah. All right, Robbie. I think that's it. And listeners, we will catch you on the next fan episode. Until then, peace. Brilliant.